Do you want to learn how to make cream horns with flaky puff pastry and delicious whipped cream? Because we're going to be baking that right now. Welcome back to the Baker's Journey. If you aspire to learn how to bake and you want to truly master the art of baking, then subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss anything. I think puff pastry is probably one of my favorite doughs to work with. So when I make puff pastry, I usually make it from scratch, although you can get it from a freezer section in most grocery stores. So I'm not going to show you how to make puff pastry today, but I am going to show you how to make cream horns with puff pastry. So with puff pastry, there's the specific recipe that I make. It actually has 1,024 layers, and it's flaky and really buttery. And I actually use butter in the dough, and I know with most puff pastry recipes the doughs are usually a lean dough. I like that extra butter, so I'm going to add that extra butter in there, and I'm going to get that flavor, and I'm going to get those profiles and the buttery profiles, and it's just going to make that puff pastry a lot more rich. And like I said, you can go out to the grocery store and you can buy puff pastry from the freezer section and you can make this recipe. So I would like to say that I would start there, but I will be getting into videos very shortly on how to make puff pastry from scratch at home. So go pick up some puff pastry from the freezer section or the freezer aisle in your local grocery store and follow along with this video. So in making cream horns, the one most important step that you want to do is you want to have a nice floured work surface. With this floured work surface, you're going to allow your dough to not stick to the table and break up your really important layers that you developed or that are in the dough. And you want to take that 250 grams of puff pastry. You want to give it a nice flour on top, roll it around a little bit, get it nice and coated so it doesn't stick. You don't want to destroy those layers. And then you want to take a rolling pin. You want to flour your rolling pin with a generous amount of flour so your rolling pin doesn't stick as well. And then you want to roll that dough out. So you want to roll it from the center and you want to roll it outwards. You don't want to toughen up your pastry. And I use personally a pasta roller to get it nice and thin, but you can do this by hand as well. And if you don't have a pasta roller, I'll leave the link in the description below for the one I picked up off of Amazon. So roll it through the pasta maker. And you want to get your dough around 5 millimeters thick as an end result. Now you want to take the excess edges off. You want to square up your dough a bit. So you can use a pastry wheel to try to cut the dough into shape. And you can save the dough ends and you can actually roll them into another batch of puff pastry. You just want to make sure you're keeping your layers dominant over everything else. Now I use a stick, but you can actually get like a pastry cutter that will measure out even strips, and you can pick these up off of Amazon as well, and I can leave a link in the description below. But you want to cut these strips at around 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch maximum, and that's going to give us a nice start. You want them to be about 15 inches long. So once you get all your dough strips cut, you're going to take pastry tubes. And pastry tubes, I specifically use wooden ones. And because I use wooden ones, you want to give them a little bit of a brush of oil, and you can use a pastry brush for this. And this is going to help us later on, after we're baking them, to get them off of the tubes. So once you get your pastry tubes all oiled down, you want to take a pastry tube, you want to take your dough, and you want to roll those bad boys up. And when rolling, you want to try to keep them as tight as possible. Remember, when they're baking, they're going to bake outwards, and the inside where the tube is going to stay uniform. And when you get to the end, you just want to give it a little pinch, make sure it stays, and continue to do this with the rest of your pastries. You can use your thumb to get a nice, tight, even roll. Then we get all our pastries nice and rolled up, and we're going to get on to the next step, which is taking some egg wash, which is 50 grams of egg, 50 grams of water. So one egg, 50 grams of water, and we're going to generously egg wash our pastries. And this is going to do three things. It's going to keep them together a little bit. It's going to allow the sugar to stick to them in the next step, and it's also going to give them a nice golden brown color when we bake them. So clean up your work surface and sprinkle down about 100 grams of granulated sugar. You can use less, but it's better to use more because then we get a nice even coating. And roll those puppies up. So just go over the sugar a couple times with them. You want to make sure they're nice and coated. And this is going to get really caramelized when we bake, and it's going to give it a nice crunch for our final product. And continue doing this with the rest of the pastries. Take a pan with parchment and tray them up. Give them nice even spacing, because remember, these are going to puff up quite a bit. And we don't want them sticking together, and we want to get a nice even bake. And the farther apart, the better in this step. Bake the pastries at 400 degrees for 24 to 26 minutes. Just remember to check your oven, because ovens can be different temperatures and they can vary in temperatures. And then you want to cool your shells completely before the next step. So the next step, we're going to make some whipped cream. We're going to add 33% whipping cream, but anything over 30 is fine, and you want to add 220 grams. We're going to add some vanilla for a pop of vanilla flavor, and we're going to add that at 4 grams, and we're going to add 16 grams of icing sugar just to sweeten it up a bit. You want to take a whisk, and you want to stir that whipped cream up. But I actually used a stand mixer and some camera magic just to fool you guys a little bit, but we won't get into that right now. Wrap it up, put it aside in the fridge until you're ready. Now gently remove the pastries from the tubes. You don't want to be too aggressive with this. You don't want to break your pastries. Just be gentle. Now fill your piping bag with whipped cream. I use a star tip, but you don't even need a tip. And you want to pipe whipped cream into the tubes. Try piping from both ends, it makes it a lot easier. And continue to fill each individual pastry with a tremendous amount of whipped cream, because that's what's going to make them great. Now you can do a few things. You can sprinkle these with icing sugar, you can drizzle them in chocolate, whatever you want to do to make these wonderful pastries. had a lot of fun with you guys today, making cream horns and learning how to shape them around the dowels. Now, the dowels in the video that I showed you, they're actually wooden dowels that I bought, that I cut down and sanded. So you can go that route, or you can purchase them from Amazon. They usually come in stainless steel varieties, and you can also get conical shaped ones. So your cream horns are actually shaped like horns, but I like using the wooden dowels because I can also do cannolis, which is another authentic Italian dessert. So thanks again for tuning into A Baker's Journey. If you like our channel and the content that we provide, then subscribe and hit the bell. We also have an email subscription list, and if you're interested, I'll leave the link in the description below. You guys have an amazing day.